Okay, so today we're looking at digital rendering. Yeah, I'm recording. Okay. Um, so we looked at rendering before. We looked at hand rendering. You guys did your hand rendering assignment. We're going to look at some digital rendering. Now, I have a really lousy light plot on here. I am going to admit that you guys saw me last time. I just dropped some lights on here just so we would have some lights so we could look at some stuff. Those are the lights that are here. As we get ready to do a digital rendering, there are a couple things we want to make sure we've done. We want to make sure that our scenery, building, and lighting, all those layers have visibility, and any classes that are applicable. So if you want, you should have the legs and the borders on the masking turned on, because that's part of what this show is really going to look like. You want to make sure you only have Act 1 or Act 2 on. You don't want both, because that's not what the show will look like, right? Only one act at a time. Okay. I turn my focus points off for this because we don't actually have floating spots in the air that say letters A, B, C, D, E, F, G, whatever, Fred, Ethel, whatever you named your focus points. Okay? And now all we have to do is figure out what a moment is going to look like. Okay? So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click on a light. I'm going to click on this par here. And I'm going to do a right click. If you're on a Mac with a one-button mouse, that is control click. If you're on a PC with a one-button mouse, I don't know what you had. Probably control and click, okay? And you're going to get this pop-up, okay? And it's going to give you a couple things. We're going to go down to turn light on. That's part one that's really important, okay? The light is now turned on. We're going to right-click on it. We can also edit the light. And we get a couple of things. This is where we can adjust the brightness. So if we're like, yeah, we want it on, but we don't want it at 100%, we want it at 75%. I'm going to set this 75% just so we can do that. Okay? You don't want to edit the kind of light that is because this is set up correctly for the light itself. Okay? Click OK. Also want to show you properties. It's just basically the object info box. Now this color didn't come up because the color name is Moonlight. That's not a color name, right? Well, I guess it's what we could call a color. But Moonlight, you know, I've thought about it. I have reflected on this, and I think Moonlight is R73. Okay? And yes, since Caleb's grabbing his gel book, it's probably a little green to be Moonlight. But why not? 73, I believe, is Princess Blue, or Italian Blue, or Egyptian Blue. Okay?
Peacock.
Peacock Blue. Okay? And it's a little green to be Moonlight, but we'll go with it. Okay? And actually, now that I have actually given it a color, when I go to Edit Light, you'll notice in here, Caleb, is that about the color of Peacock Blue? Pretty close, okay? It's built in. If you stick with the Roscoe book, they're built in, okay? The Roscoe and the GAM book are pretty well built in. Apollo and Lee are kind of questionable, depending on which version of Vectorworks you're using. Okay, now, I don't have a rendering yet, right? So my next magical trick, what I'm going to do is I'm going to figure out how to get a good rendering view. Now, we've done some of this before when we were getting ready to do our 3D rendering. We kind of moved up to a view and said, oh yeah, that's about right. Oh, I don't want these on stage. I don't want that on stage. I'm just going to go ahead and delete it. Okay. And then we want to go into view and we want to make it a perspective view. So projection perspective. Okay. And we do want this to fit on our piece of paper. And some of you made it nice and big. You know, you can kind of choose. You want to make sure that you show the set, but we don't need to show a lot more than the set. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do it like this. Now, once I have this set up to a view I like, I can actually save my view. Let me show you how to do that. Go to View, Save View, and you can name it. Digital rendering. And you can choose what it saves. View orientation, that's a good thing to save. Zoom and pan, that's a good thing to save. Page location, that's good. Unified view, that's good. Render modes and options, yes, but I recommend saving in wireframe mode so that you can look at it before you actually go into a rendering mode. Layer visibility and class visibility. Here, I generally save layers because that's going to make sure all of my layers are turned on. But I don't save class because that way if I want to make a change to whether I'm in Act 1 or Act 2, etc., I can just change that and we'll just leave those things alone. Up to you. Okay? Click OK. And it saved it. If you want to know where it is, over on our navigation, the last tab is Saved Views. And notice I now have one here called Digital Rendering. Okay? There seem to be a couple others that were in here ahead of time. You can check them out and see if they're any good. They're probably not. They were done for another set. Okay? But that means, so I can go back to, now that I've done that, I can go back to my top view and say, okay, I've done whatever changes I want. I go back to digital rendering, and I'm right back here. I'm right back here. Now all I have to do is render this. Since we have our lights turned on, we're going to try to do a view rendering. And we're going to do a RenderWorks, and I would do a fast RenderWorks, okay? Final quality RenderWorks is going to look great. It's going to take a lot more time. It's a much slower process, okay? Fast RenderWorks usually works pretty fast, okay? I have one light on and all the furniture, and we can watch, okay, and we say, my one light is on, in theory, and I really can't see it very well. Okay, well, that's fine. We're going to come back here. I'm going to select my light and edit light. It's turned on. Oh, I set it at 75%. Let's set it all the way at full brightness. And I'm just going to make sure it's turned on. Oh, do you have a focus point? Yes, you have a focus point. View, and you know what? I can do a rendering from up here and just see if the light's coming on. My light's not coming on. I shouldn't need to. Well, I'm going to try a lighter color. R33, which is not a very moonlighty color. Edit properties. And edit light. There is a lit fog button, which gives a fog. Light on. Ah! It is on. Why is it not hitting anything? Okay, so we can see it's actually on because we can see its beam here. Is my light under the desk? It's hitting the border. Okay, so what I just learned is my light isn't going to hit what I need it to hit from where it is. That's bad. Let me turn my focus points on and figure out if there is another, if I need to move that light. I'm just going to assume that what I actually meant was for it to hit area R. and come down here and change this to area R. And now I should be able to digital render this. Digital rendering. And what's nice about this is this just showed me a problem with my concept. Ah, that's a light beam. It's a really bright light beam. So I'm going to go back to R73, which is a darker color. I can zoom in here a little bit. We can say, wow, that's really washed out. Well, we can edit features of the light. So one of the things I'm going to edit is I'm going to turn the fog off. And I'm going to set it back to 75%. I'm going to set it to 50%. And here is a moment of the mystery of Irma Vep in my production. Okay? Beautiful. The more lights you're going to use, the longer it's going to take it to render. However, most times in a show, you're going to be using multiple lights. Okay? Choose your digital rendering for one really great moment. Okay? Now I'm going to take that. I'm also going to turn on this light. I'm going to turn light on and edit light. And if you get into a spot where the gel color, for whatever reason that you've selected, does not show up here, if you click on color, you get a color wheel like this, and you can just set the color. And this light is going to be, oh, give me a nice warm color. R2. We're not doing R2. I don't like R2. R11. There we go. Okay, and I'm going to turn it on. Turn on. Okay, good. Okay, I'm going to go back to my digital rendering and go to View, Rendering, Fast Render Works, and see what my stage looks now with 3 lights on. Huh? Might be hitting something again. Well, something's on because something's hitting over here. Oh, that's the reflection in the window. Do you guys notice reflection in the window? That's cool. Isn't that cool? Now, you guys will probably have a slightly easier time on this. Area C. Draw beam. And you're on. Oh, wait. Nope, you weren't on. And where are you supposed to be hitting? Area D. I'm going to make you hit area G. And okay, and View, Rendering. Okay, so we can see that they are in fact on because we can see it here. And then we can go back to our digital rendering and View Rendering Style. Okay, so we have our person who's lit here. We have our look back here. Turn on the lights you need. Okay. If you say, yeah, the fast rendering is nice, but I want to see what the final quality looks like, you can do a final quality rendering. With 3 lights, it shouldn't be too bad. Not too bad at all. Okay, if you're going to have lots of haze in the air, I wonder if I can just set that here. Rendering, fast render works, options. There's also custom render works where you can add all kinds of things. And you can also give some ambient light to everything, which is kind of cheating, except that you're kind of allowed to cheat here. Ooh, that means, oh, it's still processing.
I was like,
Yep. Okay, so in custom RenderWorks, you've got lots of options. Play with them. Part of the reason of doing a rendering, there are 2 things. I'm not going to be checking your rendering in VectorWorks. You're going to have to export this to a PDF. I'll show you how to do that in a moment, in case you had forgotten. But part of the idea is you're saying to the director what the show's going to look like. If you cheated a little bit in VectorWorks to get it to look right, but I see that you can actually do that with your light plot, I'm not going to question it. Okay? And so what I did on this one is I made it a little more reflective. It's one of my changes when I added ambient interior light. And that everything will have kind of just a little shadowy sheen, which I know is going to happen because there's quick changes. So there's 500 blue clip lights backstage so the actors can see to do quick changes. So there's going to be a blue haze over everything anyway. And this funky looking square stuff that's happening is just the computer processing. And processing. And processing. This is custom, actually. Yeah. Fast render works is fine for your assignment. For those of you that are like, ooh, I want to play with more. Okay. And we look at that, and we see we've got a little bit of reflection of the top of the proscenium arch here. We've got a little bit of haze. Now, here's the other thing. I left my focus points on. Focus points, VectorWorks does not know focus points are these imaginary things in the world. So if you have them on, you're going to get these little floating disks. Turn them off. And it says, do I want to re-render? And I'll say yes. Huh? Rip? Yeah. The more complicated your moment, the longer it's going to take. So I recommend, if it's very complicated, just doing it in fast render works. If you're doing this at home, I recommend having a bag of potato chips or cookies or something with you. Peanut butter sandwich, puppy to play with, something while it's rendering. If you're doing this in the lab, bring a book. Okay? Bring a good book. Like Lighting and the Design Idea by Linda Essick. It's a good book. And Jennifer Setlow. Yeah. Or The Mystery of Irma Vep by Charles Ludlum, another good book to read. Okay. Now, and for some of you that are going to complain about how slow this is, remember how long it took you to do your hand rendering? Yeah, this is still faster. And yes, what I find it funny is it's slow, 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 and then all of a sudden it's just going to be done. And there we go. Okay? And then I have this, I'm like, yes, this is exactly what I want it to be. This is what I want to hand out. This is what I want to hand in. This is the, this moment, and you'll save it. And you can do File, Export. You can export as several things: an image file, which are export as a JPEG, and export as a PDF. I like to export these as image files because the other thing I can do, so I'm going to draw marquee, and draw marquee means I'm just going to draw a box around what I want to export. And draw that, set my size, and JPEG 2000, don't use JPEG, or other file formats that you're comfortable with. Desktop, IrmaVep, dash digital rendering. And once you've exported, I want to show what you can do with it. Okay, it's saving, and it's going to take a while because it re-renders it to save it. But once it re-renders it, you can import it into programs like Photoshop, which is in the Ideal app. I don't have Photoshop. Or GIMP, which is a free Photoshop type program, which I do have. And you can make edits to it. You can adjust it. I should, and this is a fast run to work, so this is taking forever. And my computer is built for processing Vectorworks. I don't do a ton of this. It's almost there. There's a little status bar on the bottom. And so you're aware, if you have indirect lighting on, it's got to render the indirect lighting, and then it has to render. Okay? And if it's rendering and you want to save the time, just hit escape a whole bunch of times and it will stop the render. And I just want to show what you can do. I'm going to take and open GIMP. Applications. And again, you can use Photoshop, you can use Illustrator, you can use whatever software app you want to. And you don't have to. You can export it straight from Vectorworks onto a disk and hand it in. But if you want to do more, you can. Open on desktop. IrmaVep digital rendering. Okay, so once you have this, you can do some things like basically you can adjust color balance, hue saturation, brightness, contrast. Okay, and you can start to make it look more like what you think you want it to look like. Nope, too far. And you can say, oh yeah, but I need to color shift the whole thing, which is hue saturation. Wow. Yeah, it is.
See, that's really into the color it is.
Yeah. That's really us.
Yeah.
That looks really cool.
That's
There we go.
There we go. Okay. And
Does it make differences?
you can use a text layer. You can write Irma Vep, Scene 1, Act 1. Well, okay. And why didn't it color red? Thought I did. I tried to choose red.
I think it's just black. Yeah, it's just black.
I must have chosen black. Okay, there we go. And I can hand that in, and it's Irma Vep, Scene 1, Act 1, and there's my cool moment. Okay. The requirement of a digital rendering is that you create a rendering digitally. That's the sole requirement. I just showed you how to do it in Vectorworks. I showed you how to modify it in GIMP. Photoshop works pretty much the same way, except the icons are different, and it costs more money. Although if you're using it in the lab, it's free. That's it. Any questions?
So do we have to do that for every scene?
You have to produce one digital rendering.
Oh, that's it? Okay.
Yep. For Irma Vep. For the for your music assignment, your final, you have to create a storyboard for every light cue you're going to do. You could create them digitally if you wanted to, or you could create them. We'll look at storyboards next class about other ways of doing that. Your storyboard project, you could also do as digital renderings if you wanted, which we'll talk about storyboarding next class. Yes?
You just where to find the user for
You just put a note on that you have a hazer.
okay. And where it's located.
And where it's located, yeah. Okay. Now, let me go back and show you if you want haze, and you want to show haze. One of the weird things about Vectorworks, and use this to your advantage, but Vectorworks you have to turn on haze by light, not overall. Yeah. Because it puts haze in a light, it doesn't quite get that there's haze everywhere.
Science.
That's weird. I know. Okay. So I'm going to select these 3 lights and edit them. And lit fog. There used to be a place where you could set how much fog there was. Because my memory is that the default amount of fog is too much fog even for me. And you guys saw the dance show. Oh, by the way, don't forget. Oh yes. SA2 on the dance show is due a week from today. A week from today.
Austin, what's the problem? The third.
If you're done with it, those folks that are going to Disneyland, I would strongly suggest doing it ahead of time.
I like suggestions.
You're like, what? I like
It's been duly noted.
Okay. Ooh, here it is. Okay, we'll zoom in. It's going to have to re-render, but
That's with haze.
with haze on.
It's a lot of haze.
It looks dry.
Looks like the sun's coming in.
Okay.
That's what that looks like. That's what I'm hoping, like, the spotlight. Oh, yeah. Like, I wanted to be, like, realistic and then, like, super theatrical, because it's actually pretty theatrical.
So,
Like a spotlight on this.
yeah. So what I recommend for you guys using haze or using lit smoke is what they call it. No, don't save. Is select those lights where you really want to see the beams. Put the haze on that, and things where you don't really want to see the beams, don't turn the haze on those lights. Yes, it's cheating, but remember the whole idea of this is to sell it to a director. And it's usually really hard to see haze from front lights in the real world. You usually see haze from the side lights and the back lights. So this is not actually terribly realistic.
But do the directors know that?
Not necessarily.
Do you need to?
It's taking. It's lit fog is.
Lit fog is haze.
Okay.
Okay, so I just kind of changed what up had the lit fog, and we can render this again. View rendering, fast render works. And because I adjusted and put the indirect lighting in custom render works, it's going to have custom, I'm going to have indirect lighting everywhere. Oh, wow.
Looks like the beginning of Alex's.
Yeah, and so this is why I say the amount of haze that you get is sometimes a bit much.
Isn't that light like also really bright?
That light is also really bright. I could turn the light down. If I can find it. So I can edit the light and I can say, okay, let's put you at just 15%. Rendering, fast render works. Although yeah, it's still going to be really bright. It's also really close. So that's a little bit better. Not much. Okay, so play with that, play with the settings. This is going to take some time, okay, because you've got a lot of options to play with. With this, try to make sure your people, you will need a person, are at spots where they would be reasonably expected to be at whatever moment of the show you're choosing. And choose a specific moment. Really choose down to the line about this is this exact moment and create whatever that's going to look like in your world, in your mind. Okay? Questions? Comments? Rude gestures? Okay. Are there any other Vectorworks questions people have? This is our last Vectorworks time. So, yes, Lauren.
I tried to add my boom on the side of the stage and add the lights to it, but I couldn't figure out how to do it.
Okay, so booms are always a little weird. Remember, we have booms here, and we have them in the drawing. They're laying flat instead of up. Vectorworks claims to have a function called front in model view or section in model view, and it doesn't work real well. Okay? What you want to do if you're trying to do your booms is you're going to have to partially imagine what they look like, or put them in 3D space, figure out what they look like, and then redraw them for actual performance use.
Okay.
So when we do a boom, we're going to lay it down. So instead of having a boom straight up, we're actually going to lay it on its side so that we can see it as we're doing our light plot. Okay? And I shouldn't say the other, it's called plot in model view. I'm not going to say it doesn't work. It just doesn't work as well as for doing a nice light plot as just doing this. So we'll come here And so you want to add a boom over here?
Yeah, behind the bookcase.
Behind the bookcase, okay. So what I'm going to do is go to my resource browser, and I bet I have a 10-foot pipe in here.
Yes, you do.
10-foot pipe, and I'm just going to lay it over here. Okay, and then I'm going to select it. And I'm going to spotlight, object conversion, convert to lighting position. I have to name it. Book boom. Okay, and I'm going to go to my object info. And I want to do a summary of instruments. And if it's a 10-foot boom and it's on the stage, I'm going to set my Z at 5 feet because that's kind of the middle. How many lights are you going to have on your boom? 4, okay. So then I'm going to go and put 4 lights on here. Or 2 lights on here. I'm putting 2 lights on, 3 lights on here at the moment. Okay. And I have to give them channel numbers. I have to give them focus points. That means I have to remember what my focus points are. So they're probably going to be pointing at about at M when the bookcase opens.
ML, yes, sir.
ML, okay. I'm going to put them all at M at the moment. Now, if I were to turn them on, it wouldn't do me any good because the bookcase is blocking them, right? So let's say you want to do that moment here. What you're going to have to do is you're going to have to actually edit the drawing a little bit. Bookcase is there. And we're going to use, where's my basic tool set? Here it is. We're going to use our rotate tool. And we're going to open the bookcase. Okay, and I think that is in fact a door. Yep, that is in fact a door. Okay. So I'm going to turn that light on. The light. Turn on. I'll give it a color. Probably R26. What? What color would you do there?
No, we were laughing at the sound outside.
Oh, okay.
We were laughing and thinking, ah, shit.
Okay, and I should have turned haze on for it. But you can see over here all this red light. You can see right along the proscenium arch.
Where? I can't see. You're jumping too
Yeah,
far
sorry.
through.
I'm going to just point because I'm right through that.
Oh, you mean the?
Yeah, that is the red light from our light that we turned on over here. We'll give it some smoke. Select it. Edit light. It should have some fog. Yes. There, now we can see it. Yay? Okay. So yes, if you need to open the bookcase, open the bookcase. Okay? I will, unfortunately, the mummy does not open.
That's for her.
No, I wanted the bookcase too.
Okay. So yes, your Vectorworks assignment 7 is 1 digital rendering. I will tell you, if you're like all done with IrmaVep and you want to hand in a digital rendering for your final, that's fine too. But for the most part, whatever you want, I just need to see that you can make an image digitally. Okay? And then export it. And you don't have to do anything in GIMP if you don't want to, or Photoshop, but you can. Okay? I often find I need to do a little bit of adjustment on the contrast and brightness because Vectorworks renders things very darkly. Any other questions? Seeing none. Okay, I'm going to stop the recording.